Shovel Knight really is the game that just keeps on giving. Since its initial release in 2014, developers Yacht Club Games have continued to wholeheartedly support their product by releasing various updates as well as free downloadable expansions. The second major expansion, Specter of Torment, has now finally landed on pretty much every device that you can think of, and as expected, this new campaign manages to deliver yet again some more fantastic old school platforming greatness. Now this is particularly impressive when you take into account that this campaign is centered on a character who, in my opinion, doesn't really seem like a natural fit for a platformer. In fact, one of the worries I had when this expansion was announced was how exactly Yacht Club Games would tackle making a fun and engaging campaign centered on Specter Knight, a scythe-wielding Grim Reaper character who first appeared as a boss during Shovel Knight's main campaign. There were two main reasons for my concerns. The first being that when engaging in a battle with Specter Knight as Shovel Knight or Plague Knight, he has quite an erratic set of moves that don't really seem to translate well to Shovel Knight's tight platforming. My second reason is that despite his pretty cool looking sprite, from what I've gathered from the two previous campaigns, Specter Knight isn't exactly the most interesting character to be at the focal point of an entire expansion. Thankfully, Yacht Club Games do a fantastic job of not only making Specter Knight a joy to control, but also including a narrative that contains at its core a surprisingly touching and heartfelt message. Unlike the two other campaigns that run parallel to one another, Specter of Torment is in fact a prequel, which focuses on Specter Knight venturing the land in an effort to recruit the 8 knights that will go on to form the Order of No Quarter. Although the player will travel to the same locations featured in the other campaigns, the levels have all been completely redesigned from the ground up, so much so that apart from the similar looking background aesthetics, they all feel fresh and completely unrecognisable from the ones you may have played previously. There's even some new enemies thrown in for good measure, and many of the boss fights are also remixed and changed to account for Specter Knight's new abilities. Speaking of new abilities, unlike both Shovel Knight and Plague Knight, Specter Knight is able to wall run and jump, something that at first does take a bit of time getting used to, but soon becomes second nature. Combine this with his capacity to launch himself to higher ground by slashing his scythe through both lanterns and enemies, and you'll find that you spend a hell of a lot of time not even making contact with the floor, whilst performing impressive looking platforming feats. I'll admit a lot of it does look more difficult than it actually is, and I'm sure that if like myself you've already bested the other two campaigns, you won't really find the platforming that is on offer to be too challenging. For those who are looking for a challenge however, I recommend finding the Hidden Tower climbing minigame. This little secret section challenges the player with climbing to the top, all whilst being pursued by an electric current that will kill them if they are too slow. It took me well over 2 hours to do this section, and you'll really need to be completely in tune with the new mechanics in order to come out victorious. Whilst I'm on the subject of the game's difficulty, I want to mention one minor complaint with the game that I have, and this is related to Specter Knight's new homing attack. By jumping and pressing the attack button whilst near an enemy, Specter Knight will immediately be drawn to them and launch himself at them. It works in a similar way to modern Sonic's homing attack, except well it actually works and doesn't end up with Specter Knight zooming off somewhere to his death. The problem I have with this is that it makes most enemies, particularly the boss fights, way too easy. Players can pretty much just spam this attack over and over again and get through boss encounters with incredible ease. I suppose the same could be said about Shovel Knight's pogo attack, but at least this move requires a certain amount of skill as players don't immediately lock onto their opponent. Unlike the previous campaign, Specter of Torment doesn't feature a world map. Instead, outside of the level, Specter Knight will spend his time exclusively in the hub tower area. Whilst it is a shame to see the Mario World-esque map go, the hub area includes everything the player needs, all in an easily accessible fashion. In addition, whereas the other campaigns required the player to unlock certain levels first in order to play them, Specter of Torment allows the player to access any of the game's areas from the get-go. Curios are Specter Knight's version of relics. When playing through a Shovel Knight, I only found a few of the available relics to actually be very useful, and most of them didn't see the light of day after I collected them. Thankfully, Yacht Club seem to have learned from this, as all of Specter Knight's curios are a lot more beneficial for the player. In fact, where I usually only stuck with 1 or 2 different relics during the Shovel Knight campaign, when playing as Specter Knight I regularly changed things up, as all are great fun to use. I briefly touched upon the narrative at the start of this review. Although it's very minimalistic in its presentation, it deserves a special mention due to how surprisingly emotive it is. After completing a set number of levels, a flashback sequence will occur, with the player controlling Donovan, the man who would go on to become the cursed Specter Knight. I don't want to go into too much detail so as to avoid spoilers, but I just want to say that the creators have done an absolutely fantastic job of making me sympathise and care about a character who I previously just regarded as a bog standard boss. The game's ending does a great job of wrapping things up, as well as explaining Specter Knight's motives throughout both this expansion, as well as the other 2 campaigns in which he serves as an enemy of the player. All in all, Specter of Torment is yet another fantastic add-on to go with the already brilliant vanilla Shovel Knight. Whether you're someone like me who bought Shovel Knight upon release, so received this as a free update, or whether you're looking to purchase this expansion separately, if you enjoy platformers you owe it to yourself to give it a go. The gameplay mechanics are fantastic, and the new level and boss fight design make it feel like a brand new experience when compared with Shovel Knight and Plague Knight's campaigns. Yacht Club Games have done it yet again, and I'm already looking forward to their next expansion, which is scheduled later this year. In the meantime, I'll just jump back into New Game Plus and play through this brilliant campaign once more.